For 4 summers after I graduated high school, I was a lifeguard at a state park on Lake Hartwell, north of here. Now, Lake Hartwell was created in the early 1960s when the Corps of Engineers put a dam in the Savannah River for the purposes of generating power, flood control, and ultimately recreation. Now, I think a lot about water, and I like to imagine that the Savannah River, hundreds of thousands or millions of years ago, started as a few drops that became a puddle, that became a trickle, became a stream, and a creek, and a small river, and a slightly larger river, and flowed toward the sea, toward the Atlantic Ocean. But at the same time it flows toward the sea, it flows toward the center of the earth because it's carving the terrain. It's creating the valleys over the hundreds and hundreds of decades. And so as it flows toward the sea and it digs down toward the center of the earth, other creeks come in the side and they dig smaller canyons and valleys, and they come together and they flow. And for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, the Savannah River was happily flowing, and then a dam stopped the water. And I imagine the water is sort of, as water will do, trying to find a way and going one side or the other, but water keeps flowing toward the sea, trying to get to the sea, trying to get to the ocean. And so it climbed up the face of the dam. And then ultimately the river just turned back on itself and began flowing back from whence it came, while inexorably more water is coming. And it began to fill the valleys that it had created. It took about a year for the whole thing to fill up. And about 20 miles up from this dam was Tugelo State Park, where I worked, and where the state of Georgia had decided it was wise to literally put the lives and safety of women, kids, men, and children in the hands of teenage boys and girls. Memorial Day weekend, 1981, I became one of those boys and girls, a lifeguard at Tugelo State Park. People have asked me, how many people did you save in your 4-year career as a lifeguard, as a presumptive measure of the success of lifeguarding? And yes, I saved some people. I did save some people. But I like to think of the success of lifeguarding as preventing having to rescue anybody. An example. I knew, because I had spent, even before I was a lifeguard, I'd spent a lot of time at Tugelo State Park in the water, and I certainly as a lifeguard spent a lot of time in the water. I knew that the underwater topography, if you will, was shaped sort of like the inside of a funnel. So yes, as you went out toward the diving dock, there were buoy lines and a diving platform that floated and was anchored out there. As you went that way, of course, it got deeper, but also, oddly, if you went across, it got deeper. Think about that funnel. And so I was sitting up in my lifeguard stand one day, being as cool as a 6'4", 150-pound guy can be, my sunglasses on, twirling my whistle, watching and counting. You learn how to count because when it's not a pool and you can't see the bottom, you need to know the difference between 57 people and 54 people. Where did the 3 people go? So I'm counting, and I noticed a lady who was sort of walking from side to side, from my right to my left, and she was not a swimmer. You could tell. She was waist deep, maybe. She was walking, and then she started bouncing a little bit, and I knew that she was about to hit that funnel trough. So I climbed down, and I said, "Ma'am?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "You're about to be over your head. Take my hand." And we walked back up the shore. My 3rd summer, I was named head lifeguard. Please hold your applause. That meant 3 things. It meant I got a 10-cent an hour raise. Hey, 1981, well, 1983 by this point. It meant I set the schedule for the 4 of us who were lifeguards. And it also meant that I sort of managed the day-to-day operation, who was in what position and all of that. We're late summer, around the end of July, well past the peak. There are 3 of us on duty. There are probably 12 people in the water. I was real close, y'all, to hearing thunder, to clear the water so we could monitor the weather and wait for the storm to pass, hoping y'all would go home. When I heard a sound up in the parking lot, and it was 2 Banks County high school buses. The football team had completed summer camp, and the coach decided it would be a nice idea to bring the boys for a swimming excursion. Also, it would have been nice if he had called to let us know. But he didn't, so I quickly pulled everybody together. I said, "Okay, you 2 get on on the 2 stands, I'm gonna go out to the dock, because I know all these boys are going out to the dock, right? And I had just about gotten out to the dock. I put on my rescue tube. You've probably seen these things. It's a very buoyant, flexible piece of foam, 5 foot, 6 foot rope connected to a shoulder strap. I swam out to the dock. I just about had gotten to the dock when I heard them coming down. None of them stopped to read the rules. One of which was don't run, as they ran past the sign. I got out to the dock, and I was right. Almost all of them came out to the dock, and I was trying to manage the chaos of hyped up football player teenage boys, the leopards of Banks County High School. And I noticed 2 boys coming from swimming toward me this way. One of them very comfortable in the water, fluent swimmer, just managed the water very well. The other not so much, y'all. You know what I'm talking about. Dog paddle, sort of 45-degree angle, but he's fine as long as his buddy was with him. And I'm thinking this may not end well, but I really wanted that kid to get out there. I wanted him to have that experience, and I thought, good friend with him. I watched them. They got about 15 feet away from me, and the very fluent swimmer just did what we call a surface dive, like a porpoise thing. He goes underwater, comes up at the dock. His friend freezes. Now, y'all, drowning is not what happens in the movies. Drowning is silent and fast. If you can flail and scream for help, you ain't drowning. He froze. I'm in the air, y'all. I did what they call me in training. I put the shoulder strap on. I'm swimming to him. I get about as far as I'm hearing from Ashley, and I throw, and I say, this will hold you up. He figured out in half a second that there was a rope connecting me and him, and he pulled me through the rescue tube, pulled me, grabbed me in a death lock. He's a football player. Yeah. I ain't. He's strong. I'm not. He was terrified. I was getting there. The other thing they teach you is, if they get you in a headlock, take them underwater. They don't want to be underwater. Took him underwater. He lets go. I swim away. I come up. I get the rescue tube. I take it off my shoulders, and I throw it back to him. And I say, hold on to that. When you calm down, I'll take you back into shore. He held on to it. He calmed down. Then I put the shoulder strap back on. I sort of backstroke so he and I could talk. Yeah. Got him back to shore. He kind of gave me a hug, I think, and thanked me. I started swimming back out, trying to calm my heart rate and my breathing. Climbed back up on the dock. Still 30 or 40 boys there. And I sat there and tried not to think about how close he and I had both come to dying just then. Thank you.